Have you ever driven 30 minutes to pressure wash a patio for 50 bucks and then you realize that you just made $6 an hour? Well, I have done that, and that's why now we won't even start one of our trucks for less than $250. So we are going to talk about why you need a minimum price, and later in this video I am going to share the 3 most common things that customers say that can ruin your pricing, ruin your profitability, and at the end of the day, ruin that too, if you're not careful. And it's stuff like, can you just do one side of the house? Or, you know this one, I already did the bottom, I just can't reach the top. Or, one of my favorites, it's just a small job, it shouldn't take you that much time. And yeah, they sound harmless at first, but those are red flags from a business perspective, and we're gonna get into how to handle those near the end of this video, so stick around so you can see it. But first, let me tell you the story that changed how we price everything. So when we first started, and we started getting into residential, if you've watched the channel, you know that we were in commercial first, then we got in more into residential. But when we got into the residential work, I thought that everybody out there, anybody with a house, was gonna be our customer. And if somebody called, guess what? We were saying yes, no questions. We just quoted it and we booked it and we got out there to do the work. And back in the day, I remember right at first driving 30 minutes to wash a little teeny patio for 50 bucks because we were hungry, we were desperate, and we needed the work. And we quoted based on the size and how long that we knew that it was going to take, and that sounds fair, right? Well, it was fair for the customer, but not really fair for our business, because that one little job, it took 30 minutes to get there. It took 10 to 15 minutes to get everything set up, 20 minutes to just do the actual job, and then 15 minutes to break it all down, and then another 30 minutes to get to the next stop. So 2 hours absolutely gone. We can't get that back. And then after fuel, after chemicals, after labor, we made about 10 bucks. And the worst part is then our entire schedule for the rest of the day was completely thrown off. We were behind, we were rushed, we were getting through things way too quick, probably got a few callbacks, and we let all of those customers down who we gave times to for their schedule for the rest of the day, all for $10. And that's when I realized we weren't running a business, we were just doing errands for strangers. Now, if you've watched my channel, you have heard me say time and time again, this is a business, this is not a charity, and this is where all of this came from. And that's when we put our minimum price in place. We don't start the truck for less than $250 an hour. Period. Now, here's the thing that most guys, they don't realize. Now, you have to know what it actually costs to run your truck, run your business for a day. And I am talking about a lot of different things, right? We've got fuel, we've got maintenance, we've got insurance, we've got chemicals, we've got labor. And then of course you've got wear and tear on the vehicle, on the equipment, the administrative costs, the taxes, all of these things, they come into play and they all add up, right? And for us, just to break even, we're around probably $300 to $400 a day per truck. So if I do a $150 job, I just lost a significant amount of money, and that's not why we're here. That's not why we started this business. That's not why we get out of bed. We're not here to break even. We are here to make a profit, and that is what most people miss, right? Maybe they're booked out. Maybe their close rate is huge, right? And they're out there and they're grinding and they're doing it all. But if you look at the numbers, right, they're just busy being broke. Okay, think about that. Do you want to be busy and making money, or do you want to be busy and being broke? I know for me, I don't want to be broke. And that's why we have a $250 minimum in place. We didn't start with a $250 minimum, right? We used to take anything, like I said, $50 jobs, $99 house washes, $125 sidewalks. If the opportunity was there, we were going to jump on it and we were going to take that job. But over time, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw what I had to do. I started understanding my numbers, and we started to raise that minimum price. At first it was $150, then we bumped it to $200, then $225, now we're at $250. And every single time that we raised it, guess what happened? Fewer headaches, better customers, more margin. More margin means more money. That's great. That's what we want. And here's a tip that helped us transition, right? You don't have to raise prices for everybody all at once, okay? Start with your newest customers, the ones that are just coming in, right? And then if you want, you can keep your long-term ones at legacy pricing for now, right? But anyone new, everybody that's coming in, all those new accounts, that's where you test your higher minimum price. And trust me, you are going to be surprised at what can happen. And that's why I always challenge people, raise your price by $50 on your next quote and see what happens. Get out of your comfort zone and think of it like split testing, right? I talk about split testing in our marketing. Quote half your new leads at 10 to 15% more than you're used to. And then quote the other half at the number that you already are doing, right? And then you see what happens. And like I said, you're going to be surprised at how many people just say, sounds good, when can I get on the schedule? It happens way more often than you think, and that's why I want you to push price. I want you to raise your price every single time that you're quoting $50 for the next week. Just do that for me and let me know what happens. Now, here's where most guys mess up, and I used to do the exact same thing because I speak from experience. We've been doing this for a really long time. So I'm not some jackass that's just giving, advice on the internet. You quote a job for $250, and then you immediately offer to do it for $200. And why would you do that, right? Nobody even asked for a discount. You're negotiating against yourself. And that's the last person that you want to negotiate with, okay? And here's what changed for me. Look, I stopped backpedaling and I started saying my price and then shutting my freaking mouth. You got to shut your mouth. Shut up. Don't talk. And then you wait for what they say. And when they said yes, yeah, it felt weird at first because you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to push price that much. But then I'd be on the job thinking, or my guys would be out there working, and I would say, this was worth $250 the entire time. Why was I charging $100 before? Why did I leave so much money on the table? And I did. Hundreds of thousands of dollars I left on the table for undercharging. But even once you start charging what you're worth, you still have to protect your time. So now let me explain something I call the lowball trap. And this happens when you are booked out, right? Maybe it's a week, maybe it's 2 weeks. You're doing, 3, 4, 5 jobs a day, but your bank account isn't moving. It's stagnant, right? It doesn't get any higher. Maybe it goes a little bit lower, but you're overworked. And yes, you're underpaid. You're not valuing yourself. Therefore, customers aren't paying you what you're worth. And you're stressed out. You're getting burnt out. You're exhausted. And that's what happens when your pricing is wrong. That's what happens when you're not valuing yourself, when you're undervaluing your service and you're not building a business. You're just burning yourself out. And that's the last place that you want to be. Everything that you do is already exhausting. And that's the lowball trap. And the way out, you set a minimum price and then you have to stick to it, right? You might get a few no's, but you're going to get a few no's anyway, right? There are customers out there that aren't willing to pay. So you stick to your price and that's when you get your confidence back, right? And then you continue to get out there and push price when you can. And one more thing that's helped us stick to our minimum price without wasting a tremendous amount of time is we tell customers up front. We're not trying to be sneaky. We're not trying to be tricky. We're not trying to screw anybody over. We tell them up front, and that lets me pre-qualify them, it lets me vet them, and it lets me screen out the tire kickers, okay? This alone, every single week, it saves us a shit ton of time, hours of time, not wasted on people that are never going to be our customers. No more driving around quoting jobs for people who were never going to spend $250 in the first place, right? So you let them know up front, you let them determine if they want to move forward or not, and then everybody's happy. We've even taken it a step further, okay? Now, we built our minimum price directly into InstaQuote. Now, if you don't know what InstaQuote is, it's a part of QuoteIQ, and that's our instant quote tool on our website, right? We've got it up. I'm going to show it to you now, and this is basically how it works, okay? This is a game changer. If you haven't heard of it and you want to implement something like this, check out QuoteIQ at myquoteiq.com. But a customer hits our site, they give us all their info, select the services that they want. Now, if their square footage is too low to meet the $250 minimum, the system automatically shows our minimum price, okay? So if their house is between 1,000 and say 2,000 square feet and we're charging X amount per foot and it doesn't meet that requirement, they're going to pay $250. And then from there, they see the price. They can choose to either move forward and schedule, or they can call somebody else. But they're not wasting our time. And we're not chasing cold leads that are never going to be our customer. And because we can still see all their details, their phone number, email address, what they wanted, we still have flexibility. And if we're already working in that area, right, maybe we've got a couple jobs scheduled and we can squeeze them in, or if that scheduled day's light, right? Maybe we're hungry, maybe it's a slow season, maybe the leads have stopped, coming in like we want. We can reach out to those customers, adjust the price slightly, and make it work. And I say that because no quoting system, no matter how you do it, should ever be black and white, right? I say that it's fluid, and you should always leave room for negotiation as long as it makes good business sense, as long as it's profitable, as long as you're not breaking even. But that only works if your quotes already have margin built in, which is another reason why you need to know your numbers. So never quote out of desperation, quote from a position of authority and knowing what your value is. And that is going to help you protect your minimum price. And that is why we have minimum prices in place to protect our business. Okay, so now let's talk about those 3 things that we hear from customers that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, these things, they sound innocent at first, but if you're not careful, they're going to drag you right into that broke pricing that we are trying so desperately to get away from. So number 1 is I only need one side of my house done. I hear it all the time. And we all know the north side is the worst, right? Less sun, more moisture, mold and mildew, absolutely loves it. It thrives. It grows more there than anywhere else on the house. And customers say it all the time, and in their minds it's innocent, but this is our chance just to, educate them a little bit, right? And we do it relatively simply, and we say, yeah, that side of the house, it definitely looks worse. We see it all the time. But mildew spores, they don't just stay on one wall, and if you only clean that one side of the house, it's going to spread right back, and it's going to spread back real quick. And then you're going to be calling us again, complaining and saying, Mike, it's dirty again. You guys didn't do a good job. But it's just like the weeds in your grass. If you don't kill them all, they're going to spread. They're going to come back. And more importantly, it still takes us the same travel time, setup time, fuel, labor, whether we're doing one side or the whole house. And this is actually a perfect opportunity to make a little bit more money, to upsell them, right? Hey, we can do it for $250 to one side, or if you wanted to do the whole thing, we can do it for $300. Guess what? They're going for the whole thing, just a little bit more money. Now, number 2, I already did the bottom of the house. I just couldn't reach the top. Now, I love this one, right? This is the funny one. This is the same guy that calls and says, hey, I need a quote on my driveway. I've done half of it, and I need somebody to finish it. Yeah, because you got tired and you bit off more than you could chew, and it took you 2 days on your weekend to do it, and now you're exhausted and you just want to pay somebody to do it. You should have done that in the first place. It is what it is, and I usually joke around and I said, hey, you should have called us in the first place. But then I have to let them know that the detergents that we use, we're going to have to clean the top, and all of that's going to come down from the top. It's called gravity. So even if you already cleaned part of it, we still need to rewash everything. Otherwise, like I said, gravity, it's going to pull the solution right down over the areas you clean, probably not with the same level of detergent that we do. So we're going to have to do the whole thing anyway. So then it becomes a full house wash either way. And most of the time, people are pretty smart and they understand what we're explaining. So, you have to educate, you have to be able to explain it in a way that makes sense, not like we're trying to gouge them. Number 3, this is a good one. It's a small job, shouldn't take you but a few minutes. And that's what they genuinely think. They look at the little patio and that's what they think. But what they don't see is everything else, right? The rest of the business, right? And this is why it's important to know your numbers. That's the travel, setup time, fuel, insurance, labor, teardown, scheduling, admin, your CRM, which is hopefully QuoteIQ. All of that stuff adds up. That's our overhead. We have to account for that. Just because it's a small job doesn't mean that we don't still have to pay for all of the overhead. And they're not trying to screw you over, just like we're not trying to screw them over. They just don't see the full picture. And that's where we step in and we explain it like a professional. And once they understand what's going into every single job, and again, I'm not telling you have to give a full breakdown on all that, right? You give them what they need to understand. Then they're usually going to say, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like I said, most people are smart. And when they do say, oh yeah, you just built trust and you protected your minimum price. That is how you win long term. Those people are going to thank you. They're going to leave you reviews. They're going to refer you to your friends. So let me leave you with this. You've only got so many days in your season. Some guys have more, some guys have left, just depends on where you live. And there are only so many open spots on your calendar. So you need to ask yourself every single time you give a quote, what do you want to fill that calendar up with? Is it $95 driveways and a bunch of headaches? Or is it a $650 house wash with margin and peace of mind? Because those are the customers that we want. Those are the customers that are valuable. Those are the customers that are going to come back next year and not drop you for a couple bucks. Now, if you're still afraid to raise your minimum, I get it, right? I was always scared to push, but that's exactly why you need to do it, because getting out of your comfort zone, that is where real growth happens. That is where your business is going to start to take off. That is where you're going to have extra money to reinvest in your business, to take vacations, to do whatever, right? So stop negotiating against yourself and stop being afraid what customers are going to say. Give them your price, stick to it, shut your mouth, and then you're going to see that you're building something that lasts. Okay, so that is it for this video. video. And again, if you want help quoting jobs, scheduling, tracking, and knowing your numbers, QuoteIQ is there for you. If you want to try something like InstaQuote, InstaSchedule, I definitely encourage that. You're going to have a 24-hour salesperson that is giving accurate quotes every single time, and that is exactly why we built QuoteIQ. I am not an affiliate. I am the co-founder. I stand behind it. If you've got any questions about that, please let me know. We use it every single day, and you can try it for free for 14 days. Free trial, myquoteiq.com. There is a link down in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.